Thank you, Yossi.
Well, Roger, it's very nice to see you and here. And as always, when they say need no introduction, you have another afterwards 15 minutes introduction. But really, you see in front of you one of the legends of Silicon Valley. If there are 5 or 10 people who created Silicon Valley, Roger is one of them. He started his career in Silicon Valley in 1982, which is also known, I think, as the year when the first PC appeared with the chiclet keyboards. He was a mentor to some minor figures like Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg, among other people. He ran an investment fund for T. Rowe Price, which was, or still was, a legend investor of the class of Warren Buffett and Benjamin Graham and these kind of things. He got him into high tech. He was co-founder of one of the most successful private technology, private equity, Silver Lake, right?
Yep.
And I met him first in '96, where all of us met under the auspice of Esther. Esther Dyson, are you here? Yeah. Can you please stand up and harvest a little bit of applause? And for years, he was like all of us going after greed. But then he changed his perspective in recent years, and he began to look on the consequences of his various investments. And he became a very vocal voice in a certain debate which is going on. Also, I read in Wikipedia, which is the source of all wisdom, right?
All wisdom.
That you are a big supporter of Wikipedia.
Yes.
Yes, and I think that Jimmy is here in the crowd, right? Mr. Wales, are you around?
He's too important.
He's too important. No, I saw him in the corridor. Maybe he has more sense and he's staying in the corridor. He's doing interview. Okay, very good. Okay, I already took like 2.5 minutes from your... I asked him how he wants the moderation. He told me, you just ask me to talk and you shut up. You just hit the button. So here I hit the button, go.
So I want to thank all of you for the opportunity to be here at DLD. And as Yossi says, we go back a long way, but I go back a lot further than that. And I've been blessed by being around the technology industry from the beginnings of the personal computer industry. And I want to ask you to join me in a thought experiment today. I want you to imagine, not that what I'm saying is necessarily correct, you don't have to agree with me, but I want you to imagine that what I say is correct, and imagine how in 5 years you'll look back at today, and what are the things you're going to wish you had done today if it turns out I'm correct. So here's what I'd like you to think about. I believe that technology is too important to be left to the people who are running the industry today. That I believe that technology has reached a point that is directly analogous to the one that affected the chemicals industry around 1980, that affected the medicine industry, the pharmaceuticals industry in 1900, and the building trades around 1700. In each of these cases, there were catastrophic outcomes: massive pollution from chemicals, counterfeit drugs killing people, and home building that caused massive fires that killed many people and destroyed whole cities. And it was appreciated by the people of those times that it was necessary to have a countervailing force, to require proof of safety and efficacy before these products could come to market. And that it was required to have accountability at the individual engineer level for the work that people do. You see, this conference is full of these amazing technologies, every one of which can make the world a better place. But in the absence of wisdom, they will do great harm, exactly as Google, Facebook, Amazon, and increasingly Microsoft are doing today. And it does not have to be that way. What I want you to think about, and I think this is really the challenge that we face, that the future is not inevitable. We have the ability to direct where innovation goes. We have the ability to make technology something that improves the daily lives of all people. We have the ability to look at what we're doing and recognize that there are greater values out there than making some milestone this quarter or achieving some immediate goal that's in your business plan. What I'd like you to imagine is that as I looked at Facebook at the beginning of 2016, I saw that the business model, the algorithms, and the culture of that company made it vulnerable to bad actors who then harmed innocent people. And when I first saw those issues, I saw them first in civil rights and in elections. And this is January of 2016. When I reached out to Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg in October of 2016, 9 days before the US presidential election, I warned them as someone who had been their mentor, as someone who viewed himself as their friend, that I was afraid that they were the victims, in a sense, of their own success. And I was afraid that in a business of trust, if they did not protect the people who used their products, they would destroy their brand. I spent 3 months privately negotiating with them, begging them to do the right thing. And they were not interested. And I think they believed that their mission was so important that my concerns didn't matter. And I owe an enormous debt of gratitude to so many people because I'm an analyst, and so most of the ideas I have are ones that I've borrowed from other people, some of whom are here today, right? You know, Marisha Shaka has taught me a lot about how policy should work. Carol Cadwalader has taught me about courage and taught me about how to think about, you know, the investigation of these things. Maria Ressa, same kind of thing. So I want to talk a little bit about Shoshana Zuboff, professor from Harvard. Many of you have read her book, The Age of Surveillance Capitalism. One of the critical insights that Shoshana had was that the value system at Google was an engineering value system that optimized efficiency above everything else. And I want you to think about this, because if you're an engineer, efficiency is really important. If you're building a motor or a small system, efficiency is really, really, really good. But now I want you to think about this in the context of an entire society or a country. Right? Western democracies are built on the values of the Enlightenment. Free will, self-determination, and democracy. And I want you to think about those things, right? Because those are not efficient, right? Each of us being able to make our own choices is tremendously inefficient. Democracy is inherently inefficient. And if you are Google, and then its imitators, so Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, if you're optimizing for efficiency at the societal level, if you're imposing artificial intelligence where previously human judgment was brought to bear, what's going to happen? You're going to gradually squeeze out the role of democracy. You're going to gradually squeeze out individual choice. And my point is, it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, it should not be that way. And we're at a point now where if we look back over the last 4 years, we can see that national elections in the United Kingdom, the United States, and Brazil were affected really dramatically by misuse of internet platforms. And that has had consequences for 3 of the largest economies in the world that may persist for generations. Now, one of the things I do not understand is why the employees at Facebook and Google, who I believe are good people, why they have not expressed any concern. How is it that the employees at Google, at YouTube, are not troubled by the use of YouTube to recruit and train terrorists? Why they're not concerned about the use of Google to prevent action on climate change or to proliferate the anti-vax conspiracy theory? Why are the employees of Facebook not troubled by what happened in Myanmar when the United Nations attributed an ethnic cleansing to Facebook? Why are they not troubled by the role that Facebook Live played in Christchurch? And I think the answer is because they have been trained to view efficiency as the most important thing. And in that context, when you have an audience of 2.8 billion people, things are gonna go wrong. And so they can rationalize in their own minds an ethnic cleansing in Myanmar, a place that's so far away that none of them can find it on a map. That they can rationalize 51 people dead in Christchurch, New Zealand, even though as a percentage of the population of New Zealand, it is identical to 9/11 in the United States. These are not bad people, but they are not wise either. And we should no more assume that they're going to figure this out for themselves than we should assume that Donald Trump will start to become a normal president of the United States. It's just not going to happen. And this is our moment. And for each and every one of you in this room, your future is based on bringing technology to market that has a chance to make the world a better place. And what I would ask you to do is to raise this question. Do you want to live in a world, do you want to try to bring your technology in a world where the economy is completely dominated by 4 companies? Because the thing here is that Facebook and Google, Amazon and Microsoft are not satisfied with the markets that brought them here. If you look at what Google's doing, they have Sidewalk Labs, which is a business designed to replace government, right? They're going to operate municipalities. They're trying to bring their artificial intelligence with all of its biases into medicine. And they're stealing people's private data in order to do that, or at least that is what Ascension Health, one of their largest customers, has alleged. If you look at Facebook, they're trying to do a cryptocurrency, Libra, to replace the euro or the dollar. If you look at Amazon, they're creating smart devices that spy on us everywhere. And then they're working with police departments. And you saw yesterday how terrible their facial recognition is and how the artificial intelligence that people use in police departments carries on the racial biases that existed in the real world, because that's what the training sets have. That's not what technology should be doing. We're better than that. I spent an entire career building technology to make the world a better place. I followed Steve Jobs to Silicon Valley because I believe that technology can be this powerful tool for improving the lives of the people who use it. But that's not where we are today. And the problem here is that in every industry, the guy from Merck, the guy from the wireless company, they're not recognizing the threat that Facebook and Google and Amazon and Microsoft represent to them. That in shifting the economy from a focus on natural resource to a focus on data, they've put us in this position where every company is trying to chase them, but they're all being forced to compete on ground chosen by internet platforms. And what will wind up happening is that in their rush to get to market, in their rush to be part of surveillance capitalism, auto companies are going to get their technology from Google and from Amazon. That banks and financial services companies are going to partner with Google and Facebook that they're going to do this, and they're going to wake up one day and discover that their value chain has been, and their profits are being absorbed by the internet platforms exactly as occurred in media. And again, you don't have to believe me. What I'm asking you to do today is to just imagine in 5 years, if I am right, what will you wish you had done today? What changes in your life would you make? Because here's the thing. I've spent my entire professional career since 1982 doing what many of you are doing. I really believe in what you're doing. I believe that technology can make the world a better place. But I believe that we've forgotten that. In our pursuit of billions, we've forgotten our humanity. And that is a tragedy. And it shouldn't be that way. Because we can be immensely successful. We can change the world. We can be the heroes in our own story. I mean, I've been pleading with Mark Zuckerberg since the fall of 2016 to be the hero of his own story, to recognize that Facebook has gone horribly wrong. And he alone can fix it easily. So I'm going to leave you with a few thoughts. Here's what I think we should be doing relative to internet platforms. We're in Europe. Unlike the United States, values still matter here. In the United States, the law is a matter of negotiation of business interests. We've forgotten the original principles from which it was derived. But in Europe, values still matter. You've already declared that privacy is a human right. I want you to extend that to personal data. I want you to recognize that personal data is not an asset to be traded. It is a human right. There should be no third-party commerce. Big data is a fraud in the sense of it violates the human rights of the people whose data is in it. We have to find a better way. And that's going to disrupt a lot of things. But it's going to create massive opportunities. Because right now we have a monopolized industry where no matter what you do, no matter how successful, most of your profits are going to get absorbed by the big four. Whereas if we can stop their business model, then suddenly 1,000 flowers can bloom, and many of them will bloom here in Europe. And the second thing I want to do, and this is really important, and this is the thing that will liberate all of your businesses, I want to ban algorithmic amplification. The General Data Protection Regulation is a beautiful idea. But it was created at a time before we understood the full scope of the problem. So it attacks the symptom. The symptom is misuse of your data. But it puts the burden, it basically makes it too easy for companies to work around it. If you ban algorithmic amplification, the problems with hate speech, disinformation, and conspiracy theories that are destroying civilization will evaporate. Suddenly we'd be back where we were 30 years ago, when there were white supremacists and there were terrorists and there were all kinds of bullies, but they could not amplify their signal. And between micro-targeting, which is really based on private data, and algorithmic amplification, these platforms have transformed the world we live in from an optimistic, open, welcoming community into this place that's polarized and where people can no longer even talk to each other. Again, please join me in the thought experiment. I ask that when you leave here today, you just imagine what the world would be like if you didn't have to look over your shoulder and worry about Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Microsoft crushing you. That's a world we can bring about. We just use politics to do it. We have an election in the United States. This will be one way or another one of the issues. In the United States, it doesn't matter who the Democrats nominate. What matters is that we inoculate our voters against disinformation and voter suppression. If we do that, any Democrat can win. If we don't do it, the United States is going to go into a dark age. And then whatever it is you're doing is going to be very hard to do. I'm going to do a deep dive over in the steel case room with Brittany Kaiser right now. I would encourage you to come. I'd love to meet with you. I'd love to share this with you. And I want to thank my dear friend Yossi Vardi. Yeah.
First of all, it's amazing. This is... They like what you say.
Thank you very much. Listen, I want to thank all of you, okay? Thank you all. This is a great privilege to be here.
I think there is nothing to add. Mr. McNamee, thank you very much. The question I wanted to ask you, I'm not going to ask you because it will be kind of anti-climax, but I wanted to ask you where have you been from 82 to 2016. But this is just to provoke you. You can elaborate on it on the deep dive.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.